Hey everyone, and welcome to the GQinc Facebook Live for tonight. It's the start of a new series called How to Succeed, and each week Jack Delosa will be doing a chat with a whole lot of different entrepreneurs about business and how to succeed, and the art of selling is the real key thing for this first lot of episodes. But before Jack is going to be taking over asking the questions to different business owners, I'm going to be asking him the questions. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you, Hugh. Good to be in the seat.
Thanks for having us in your office here at WeWork in Pyrmont for the Entourage. So, tell us a bit about, for those that don't know, what you do, a bit about your background as a businessman, and what the Entourage does, and for those who don't know.
Yeah, sure. So I've run businesses my whole life. I dropped out of uni at the age of 18 because I just found it to be a bit sort of slow and theoretical, and couldn't really envisage where I was going to be able to apply it in the real world one day. And funnily enough, I've always had a love of education, not only for self but for others. So ironically, I think it was my love for education that led me to drop out of university, because I wasn't getting the education that I wanted. And I went in search of it through a fairly entrepreneurial path. So I started my first business at the age of 18, stuffed a couple of them up, which was like the apprenticeship, right? That's what you do. You either learn at uni or you learn through your own mistakes, and I chose the latter. And then when I was, probably 3 or 4 years in the game, started a company called MBE Education with a guy called Buchanan, and that was my first real home run in business. We would assist SMEs to raise money from investors, buy businesses, build value, and ultimately exit. And that gave me the foundation that I needed in kind of every sense of the word to start the Entourage, which today has grown into Australia's largest education institution for entrepreneurs.
So I guess you're skilled in the art of selling first yourself to other people, and then what you guys do as a business, and your idea is to get them across. So perfect topic to segue into what we're going to talk about.
That was a good segue.
Hey, how'd you like that? So the first kind of section we want to talk about is the art of selling yourself better. So everyone kind of struggles with thinking about making that good first impression and all those kinds of things. So what's your overall piece of advice to people that you see people do wrong every day in terms of how they sell themselves when they're talking to other people?
Well, the good news is I think that sales is dead, right? And I say that's good news because no one likes to sell and no one likes to be sold to. Everyone loves to buy. We want to buy a car, we want to own a car, but we don't want to be sold a car. We want to buy a home, we want to own a home, but we don't want to be sold a home. And so I think modern day sales, I kind of think of it more as leadership today. And I think that modern day sales is really about how do you enable people to buy more so that you can sell less, right? I think when applied to selling yourself in a kind of like first impression type example, the overarching piece of advice is just be you. And I know that probably sounds like really cliche and corny and maybe even a bit shallow, but it's true, right? Unfortunately, in 2017, real is rare. And so just know that if you're an introvert, that's cool, be introverted. Have your data, have your detail. If you're charismatic and extroverted, be charismatic and extroverted. I think fundamentally, in terms of making an impression as a human being, determine who you are, be that.
So what's the first thing? We're getting some questions from people writing, so feel free to comment wherever you see any questions come up you want to ask something to Jack.
Tell me if my answers are too long as well.
No, he's killing it so far. So the first question is from Jack, another Jack, who says, what's the worst thing that you've seen in terms of selling yourself in an interview, the worst, salesmanship that people have done in an interview?
When it's scripted, right?
Yep.
Because it lacks that authenticity. Whereas, what I generally look for in another human being, and this is almost a bit of a dichotomy, right? But you look for a sort of quiet, authentic confidence. And by confidence, I don't mean a sort of an extroversion or anything like that. What I mean is confident in oneself, whoever or however you may be.
Yep.
And secondly, humility, right? So I think if you can be confident in yourself, which can lend itself to humility and a lack of scriptedness and structure, and you don't want to be trying too hard. And I think that when you know yourself, when you can sort of sit in that, that's the best place to come from.
Cool. Another question coming from Daniel, who says, would you say it's better telling someone your accomplishments and credentials, or having someone else deliver them, in that kind of terms of being able to sell yourself? Is it better for you to sell yourself, or for someone else to sell you to someone else?
Depends on the environment, right? Like, I think that you need to get really comfortable about showcasing who you are, any milestones you might have achieved to date, because there will be instances, a job interview is a good example.
Yep.
Sure, they may have a resume prior to the interview or whatever the case may be. However, you need to own that, and not from a egotistical sort of look at me type perspective, but from more of a, I'm still learning, we all are, but I feel like I've done some great things and this is what they are, and so let me share them with you.
Yeah, being able to present it like honestly and in an authentic way without sounding, as you said before, about humility.
That's exactly right, man. The number one thing people get wrong is trying to be something they're not, or trying to put on a facade, because this is what happens, right? When someone steps into a sales environment,
Yep.
or on stage, like in front of a group of people, or a metaphorical stage, like on a video, the personality tends to go vroom, and it shrinks, right? And we become who we think the person in front of us or the people in front of us want to become, right? And so that's why it's so important to go, this is who I am, I'm really comfortable in me, I'm not necessarily arrogant about it, but I'm okay with it, and therefore let's have a dialogue on that basis.
Yeah, great. So I guess if you're, a recent graduate or have a business idea and you've got to sell yourself with not a lot of experience or anything to back you, how can you best present yourself in like a practical sense? How can you best present yourself?
Yeah, well, I think what's interesting is in 2017 and beyond, EQ is becoming the skill set that's going to differentiate those who have a really bright future and big career and perhaps those who struggle a little bit. The latest research out of Oxford University it aligns perfectly to the latest research out of CSIRO, which says that over the next 25 years, 44% of jobs are going to be automated out by IT, automation and AI.
Wow.
44% of jobs.
That's a lot of jobs.
That's a lot of jobs. And for the first time ever, the opportunity created by the change will not be equal to the destruction created by the change. So the internet took a lot of jobs,
Yep.
but it created a lot of jobs, right?
Yep.
So there was this balance. That's not going to happen in the next 20 years. And so if you look at what, IBM release a report once a year called the CEO's report, and they interview the top CEOs from around the world and say, what do you look for in your people? Top things that top CEOs around the world look for in the people: adaptability to change, creativity in developing new ideas, and the ability to cooperate and develop and sort of catalyze teamwork with peers, right? Which are all emotional intelligence type skill sets. And so I think the fact that you don't have experience might be a good thing, particularly if you can demonstrate that high level of EQ.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the thing for adaptability as well. If you're ready to adopt, learn new skills and take on new opportunities and challenges, regardless of a fixed mindset, even if you have no experience, you're willing to take whatever's thrown your way.
That's right. A couple of years ago, the Entourage were listed as Australia's 4th best place to work under 100 people. The year after that, so 2016, we listed in the top 50 places to work in Australasia under 100 people, right? So we've got an exceptional culture and always have, for the foreseeable past anyway. And we very rarely analyze for resumes, right? Academic results are becoming far less important, and employers from PwC to Ernst & Young to Penguin, who are a publishing company, to Macquarie Bank, these most prestigious...
The big names in business.
Big names, right? Are placing less and less emphasis on qualifications and grades and all of that sort of stuff. So it's more about who you are and what you can contribute.
So a question from Lacey: if you're needing to sell yourself to people or on social media, and it's one of the main platforms to get out there in terms of social media, but you find that to be one of your main weaknesses, you don't feel comfortable on social media or comfortable on camera, what would be your suggestions?
Yeah, so you need to be comfortable on social media, So,
so it's one of those things. You just got to get good at it.
100%, because there's things that are becoming less important: grades, universities. The ability to remember geometry from year 8, right?
Totally.
Thank God, right? Like this, because we're now being based on our merits and being judged on our merits. And there's things that are becoming more important, like your ability to adopt and, sort of be proactive on social media. With video, it's an interesting one. If you're just not cut out for video, find a different medium, like blog or whatever. But if you think that you can bring yourself to develop it as a capability, and I think you can, then start to practice.
well, I know you like to do videos yourself. You do a lot of Facebook Lives of your own, where you're broadcasting from whether it's in the car or at a desk or anything like that. A little different setup to this, but
that's the thing, right? With Snapchat and Insta stories and all these sorts of things, even if you've got 200 followers on Instagram and they're your buddies at uni or whatever it might be, use that function like daily, and you'll build that capability. You want to get to a point where you in front of a video, be it a Snapchat story or an Insta story or a Facebook Live, whatever, you in front of video is no different to you in front of humans.
Whether it's 3 people in an office right in front of you or your direct boss or whatever, it's still how how you present yourself and broadcast to everyone else. Yeah,
100%.
Okay, so what do you immediately notice when someone is selling themselves well or selling themselves poorly?
So I think when someone's selling themselves well, it always starts with a human, right? And so I come back to the dichotomy of, like a quiet confidence, but in themselves, authentically, but also a humility. I think when somebody's not selling themselves well, they're over obsessing about how am I coming across,
stuffing up the tiniest things,
and you just need to get out of your own way, right? I find that when you obsess about the audience, and it might be an audience of 1, it might be an audience of 10, it might be an audience of cameras. When you obsess about them and what they need to take from this conversation, as opposed to obsessing about you and how am I coming across or whatever, you tend to get out of your own way and deliver a message that ultimately going to speak to the hearts and minds of your audience.